an incident in my life that I ever felt really, I was never bullied as a person, and I would hope I never bullied a person, but I was getting off the dart recently at night in Clontarf, and I'd been doing a night course in town, and when I was stepping off the dart, there was boys on the dart going on out past Clontarf out to, I don't know where, towards Sutton direction.
Yeah.
And they blocked my legs, and I had to step over this guy's legs to get to the door. And my nature would be like to give out to him, savage him, and say to him, how dare you little brat, kind of thing. But my nature would be to do that if I saw somebody doing that to anybody else. But I was afraid to say anything because I thought they might follow me off the dart, and the Clontarf station was dark and I was on my own. So I said nothing. And I felt when I did get out of the dart, I felt so intimidated that that little fecker had done that to me. And that's like one minuscule, tiny incident, and I'm 56 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
And the rage that must be in Black people, like I know this has caused it to explode, but how are you living with that constant rage that must be in you when you hear again and again and again what's happening? Your brothers and sisters. Where do you put that rage?
Well, Debbie, it goes back to the whole civil rights movement. It goes back to just being aware that, you know, if you do, depending on the situation, if you do react, Debbie, you could be dead. You know, like I said, you had a story, an incident then. I have countless stories like that involving my family members, friends. And we have to continue to sort of educate people and get everyone to sort of care, because people don't care. If it doesn't affect you directly, doesn't, you know, people will just turn off. So the rage that you talk about, Debbie, it has to become focused in a particular area of education. Me, myself, personally, you build up resilience. Not, and you know, Jerome, because I got cynical a couple of days ago with Jerome, and I said, you know, you just have to not give up and stay focused on trying to inspire people. Jerome's involved in coaching and teaching. I'm involved in coaching and teaching. Debbie, you're involved with kids. And we all trying to inspire people and trying to call out people if they're wrong. We have to be careful because, Debbie, what if you did call that young fella out on the dart? You know, who knows? He could have followed you. Could have led to, God forbid, you being attacked or whatever. So there are times and places that we choose to fight our battles, and that for me personally, I've tried to learn to do that, because if not, you will act out of anger or violence.
Yes, and this is where of course you get looting, I suppose. It's people who have less education. And only, I mean, I'm not defending the fact they were looting. They should not have been. Or stealing a television is not going to solve anybody's problems. And also, it gives people the argument that, well, look at these people, how depraved they are. But actually, it's simply an uneducated bunch of people working out anger. You're working it out in an educated, mature way. They're working theirs out in a completely uneducated, immature way.
You know what, Debbie? Let's go to any place in the world, and it was, you know, you say COVID, people are unemployed, over 20 million or something unemployed or more in America or around the world, people in different countries, different situations, and people have been laid off. You're trying to feed your family. I would put it to some people, the listeners, that even the best people with good moral fiber, if put in that situation where you had a chance to get food. I know some of the looters took shoes. In Manhattan, they took very expensive clothes out of, you know,
Louis Vuitton, etc. All of these big stores.
High fashion. in Los Angeles, they took some very expensive stuff, jewelry, watches. That's all people being opportunistic. It had nothing to do with people who are out trying to protest. And you're going to get that. It's just, trying to restore law and order from the police. And that's another thing I will do, just to make sure we mention that. I'm sure on the other side, the wives, the sons, the daughters, the mother and fathers of police officers who have to go out every night and on patrol, on duty, you have to look at it their point of view too. There have been cases where cops, and let's just make it clear, there are good police officers and there are police officers who are not good. But we have to look at their side of their point of view too. It's not easy going out and putting your life on the line to, as they say, serve and protect. So once again, we really got to keep educating people, become more tolerant, and just try not to let the system wear us down, and call people out on the injustices when it comes to it. And Black lives matter, white lives matter, all lives matter. But we do have to call out the Black Lives Matter because, well, like you say before, the Breonna Stewart's, which I still can't understand how someone can break into your house and just break into your house and then 8 times. Overkill? Was she running out the door? Was she jumping out the window? 8 times she shot. She's in her bed. 8.
Well, that's
her boyfriend was arrested first, but he had a license to carry a gun, so he shot and he actually wounded a police officer. But he was arrested for murder or attempted murder. Days later, he's released. But to this day, I don't know if there's a civil action. I don't know, but no one has been brought to justice for killing her. So that will bring anger out, and that's why all of a sudden you see the no justice, no peace. Because I say, whether it's 50 years, 60 years, I think that without a doubt, people have had enough.
Well, Jerome, your daughter-in-law, Emily, yes, wrote an article this week that we all read, and a beautiful article. And she's white, and she's married to your gorgeous hunky son. And it was interesting because, we need practical, like when I rang you guys last week, I said, like, I'm so sorry for all of this, and I felt so ashamed even to be part of the white race that would treat anybody like this. But I did the thing that she said not to do. She said, don't ask Black people, what can you do to help? Like, it's a ridiculous question. In her article, I thought, Beckett, that's exactly what I did to two of you. And because you don't know what to do, like, but I did read her words carefully where she said, we need to use our voices to amplify where the situation. Amen. Call it out. And she was like, she said practical things like make sure you've got Black dolls in your home, make sure that the books you're buying for your children have Black heroes and brown heroes and Mexican heroes, and they're not just all about bloody white privileged heroes. And she was, and they're like, make sure they're watching Doc McStuffin, which I just loved. And because it's obviously she's a Black doctor, McStuffin, and it is thankfully watched worldwide. It has a massive audience. I know one of the directors of it, actually, he was in Russia with me. He's an animator, and she was saying, like, that other one, that don't let them watch, of course, the famous film that every single child in the world watched. I can't think of the name of it now. The ice one, they all. And she was so people need to know what to be doing in their homes, because we don't even think to do this. There should be Black baby borns in everybody's house along with a white baby born. There should be, the doll I'm talking about, because people don't, I think we don't even think. We just accept far too much that Black people are different, and most people in Ireland, Jerome, don't know Black people. Like, I only do because you two have been involved in my son's life as two basketball coaches. I mean, and you, Jerome, and because we know you then, and all the beautiful Americans that came in as part of that whole basketball picture, we then had I have such a positive, I only know magnificent, inspiring Black people. you know, because that's exactly what you guys are. I didn't even think that that's my perception of Black people: magnificent, inspiring, spiritual, much better living than I am. So I'm shocked to think that anybody in my country would ever be racist towards human beings that are as admirable as you guys are and your children. I'm so disappointed and shocked that that would happen in my country, and it's a complete lack of education. So we need, a bit like the 8 things that can't wait. There's a whole load of things, Ed, that can't wait. Or Jerome, you were talking about the 8 can't wait. There's a whole load of things. We all need to start doing stuff that can't wait from now, from today.
Yeah, Debbie, and I'm just, as we're talking, and a lot of what we're talking in regards to the whole area of racism and people, I want to be I am optimistic in that we're talking about the minority. And what we're trying to do here now is mobilize the majority in regards to educating, the majority, getting, them mobilized to a movement that can bring about change at a time where, it is a global issue there. In regards, and as we move, we talked a lot about what's happening across the water. But, as you started out in the very beginning, talking about that young woman who was on the Ryan Tuberty show, let's be clear on the mandate that we have here and looking after home, that we got to get our own house in order as well. And when I mentioned about the structural and generational aspect of racism in America. I can remember when I first came over and people always asked me about racism here. And I used to tell them, I said, I'll be honest. I said, racism is so deep rooted in America that, it's kind of a maintenance issue there. We're just kind of involved in sort of a maintenance program. Whereas here in Ireland, for what I've experienced at that time, it was long before the immigration, the amount of immigration we have here now and everything, but that I felt that we were able to try to attack it at the roots here in Ireland, and I still feel that way. So when you're when we think about that one young girl on the Ryan Tuberty and what she's experienced and what we are hearing in regards to some of the the racist stories that are now coming out because of what's happening across the water. I think we do have to try to, as you say, where do we find the information that we need? And I was really struck by something I'd seen on Facebook and it was actually a quote from John Hume. And it was his famous quote on difference, that difference is the essence of humanity, and that difference is an accident of birth, and it should therefore never be the source of hatred or conflict. That the answer of difference is to respect it. Therein lies the most fundamental principle of peace, respect for diversity. And so, when we accept that, that's what we're part of. That's the life that we're part of. That life is all about difference and accepting that. But when I'm thinking about the issues here, one of the big issues in Ireland, we know is the whole area of direct provision in Ireland. And where do we find these educational links that gives us the advocacy and support? And it's there. All you got to do is start Googling. You Google, and here in Ireland, they're just numerous between the organizations like the INAR, which is the Irish Network Against Racism, there, immigrationcouncil.ie, and it goes on. There's the Youth Council. There's actually, Ed mentioned the traveling community, and the ITMTRV.ie, which is the Irish traveling movement there in regards to racism, that in prejudice and racism that has affected that community for generations that we need to address. So I mean, it's about making a decision. You want to be a part of being making a change, and then taking actions to do that. But at the same time, for me, again, personally, you talked about who, and Ed said it too, who we want to be daily in our attitudes toward who we meet. Basically, people in general are good and they're bad, and you're going out there with a positive outlook of I'm not going to judge a book by its cover. We've known that for it's just living it though, and so yeah, that's where I'm at. But I am. Yeah, sorry.
You guys are religious, yes? Am I right? Is that the right word to use, or spiritual? I'm not religious, so you both attend church here. Do you? I don't know. Actually,
yeah.
Well, Jerome attends church. My mother would be a bit disappointed in me that I don't attend church, but I was always raised a good in a spiritual house. My mother always had us in church every Sunday school, Bible study, all like that during midweek or Wednesday or Tuesday nights. But having said that, Debbie, my mother also taught us that you don't have to be in a house or worship in order to talk or pray to the Lord.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with obviously.
Whatever your faith, what do you believe in?
Yeah, does a lack of religion, I mean, Ireland has lost, quite a lot of its faith over the atrocities in the Catholic Church. And funny enough, I only heard the other day on the radio that prayer was up like by 50% or something during COVID times. People were feeling rattled and were reaching back to prayer as some kind of a solace. But so in America, when you look at the Deep South in America, where they're all the Bible bashers, or if that's probably, am I allowed to say that they're Bible bashers? That's probably the wrong thing to say, but that's
Bible Belt.
Is that Bible Belt, yeah. It's probably a terrible thing to say, actually. But so in places like that, where they're so religious, and so obviously these mad preachers that are all screaming and roaring off on these huge audiences, and yet some of the worst racism in America, am I right in thinking, would be in the Deep South, where you have people who are Christians or call themselves Christians, and yet you must witness huge. Is there why? How do people who call themselves Christians justify the way they treat? Now, they also treat homophobic people like they don't, gays, or they try and make gay people ungay and all this sort of stuff. How do they call themselves Christians when they treat other human beings? Because it has to say somewhere in the Bible that all people are the same, or Jesus loved all people and all, he didn't differentiate. How do they justify the way they treat Black people in the Deep South and use the N word repeatedly, as we know?
Well,
Jerome?
you from there, Ed? Go ahead.
Well, hypocrisy. We do have people in the world who are very who are hypocrites. And in the case with a certain percentage of those states you mentioned, they are behind President Trump. I'm afraid it's another issue that has them on board, which is, I guess, probably dealing with the rights of a woman to choice involving around abortion. But they've turned their heads away from any other issues around President Trump being married 3 or 4 times, or three times, him not going to church, and different allegations against him. Mind you, they haven't been proven false or any truth to it. But one thing is true, that out his own mouth, the way he's actually responded to women, the way he's responded to women of color, the way he's attacked women reporters. So people have definitely sold themselves, sell out basically. When all for their cause. So they're willing to turn their head. Some of the Christians or in that area of the Bible Belt in support of President Trump, and they moved from. In other cases, they wouldn't have, in your wildest dreams, supported a candidate like President Trump. Which, like I said before, it's being really hypocritical, basically. So that's why a lot of people are saying, come out and vote in November.
Mm-hmm. Jerome, do you find it difficult, the religious, because I know you are such a spiritual person, like it's laughable, isn't it, when you see people that call themselves Christians? I mean, I did tell both of you the story that we had a dinner party in our own house last year with Americans that I didn't really know very well. And the man used they were white, and the man used the N-word at our table, and I'd never actually heard it in my home before. And my husband said to him, you can say that once, but if you say it again, you're going to have to leave. And we all kind of then were slightly mortified for the rest of the evening. It was so uncomfortable. So they were Christians. And so so you obviously have churches in the Deep South that have black communities, and then churches that have white communities. And I'm sure you have some that are mixed as well.
Yep.
How do you reconcile that, Jerome, that you've got people that are these craw-thumping Christians, and yet they feel they have a right to treat other human beings in a lesser way? How do you deal with that?
Debbie, I get the question then that would come up from me is, are they truly followers of Christ? Because are they truly followers of Christ? Because that's what I am. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And, as a follower of Jesus Christ, I know where my heart is in regards to my heart toward the poor, toward the afflicted, toward injustice. And that couple that was in your house, they may call themselves Christians, but are they followers of Christ? Because if they know Christ and they're followers of Christ, I don't think you would have encountered that.
Mm-hmm. But then I think people probably misinterpret the Bible, because I remember watching some program, one of those brilliant films that are so hard to watch about racism in the slave times. And they were beating the black guy, seriously taking the skin off his back. And as they were doing it, they were reading the Bible about putting stripes or something. There was some quote in the Bible and the white people were justifying what they were doing by the words they were reading. So they were completely interpreting the word out of the Bible to beat this guy to death, practically. So people literally do see something, and the three of us see something, and we all see it in a different way, I suppose. People interpret things maybe, and so they justify their behavior.
They do, Debbie, and that is, I think, when we talked last week, Debbie, and this is for centuries now, we've had systemic racism. Didn't pronounce that very well. It's there. Jesus Christ. Was Jesus Christ white?
Well, he wasn't white. He was he looked like Osama bin Laden, sure.
Yeah. So we've all seen pictures of Cleopatra, played by the actress
Elizabeth Taylor.
Elizabeth Taylor. You mentioned the subject about black dolls and white dolls. It's just the system is watered down to portray people in different ways. So we do have to seek out the truth, like we're seeking justice. And the way Jerome said it there, I mean, people have, if they're true believers, we have to actually get more people to think and to be open-minded about culture, religion, and everyone has a point of view. And not sort of have those rose-tinted glasses on to suit themselves.
Well, Jerome and Ed, I mean, there is a responsibility, I suppose, on you guys. I mean, I don't know if you feel that, but like so we're used to hearing Oprah's voice on this, and she's gathering all these beautiful and clever Black people at the moment, and she's having all these Zoom webinars, and we're all watching, and they're all discussing what's going to happen next. In Ireland, we've so few, I think, Black people that we don't have voices. We're hearing now at the moment tragic stories on the radio from people who've been bullied and who have had racist incidents. I mean, I just wonder, should you two guys, I mean, you need to be sitting on the Late Late Show sofa, you need to be on Claire Byrne's sofa, you need to be on, we need to be getting your voices out there, and you should, like, I know Emily said in her article, you know, don't be asking Black people, what can we do? It's like, it's pure respect for people. They need to hear voices. Like, you're half Irish, the two of you. Now,
Yep.
you're half Irish, whether you like it or not, you're half Irish. You know, I think people should be hearing your opinion, because for me, it was just so interesting just to listen to your calm about it. I mean, I don't think I would have stayed calm about it. The two of you have worked through it. You're in a, you know.
Well, Debbie, sorry for interrupting there, but you know, you mentioned Claire Byrne, and I turned down the Claire Byrne show last year sometime, and I'll tell you the story, because I wouldn't have responded. My very good, lovely wife Anne said, "Well, you should do it." And this is regarding around social media and the attack on, I think, Cyrus Christie, who's Black.
Yeah, just stop
Irish,
one second.
Irish.
Stop
Yep.
for 1 second. Have we lost Jerome?
I don't know. Jerome.
I think we've lost Jerome.
Okay.
So I think he's frozen and he's silent as well. We've lost him there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this, because I want to talk about this. So
Okay.
I'm going to stop the recording and let him, I think he's probably problems charging his phone.
Yep.
And I'll come back to the two of you. I'll text you a different time, and we'll follow this on. And when you come back, Ed, I'd love you to come back and say, okay, this is what, like, because we're like, I don't know what we can do. You need, and I don't need you to be saying, you need to tell us what to do. It's pure respect for people. But like, people are afraid of the subject, I think. White people kind of, what do we do? Like, what can we do? But like, I had girlfriends here last night, and they were like, what can we do? There are things we can do, but we've lost Jerome now. So let's come back to that.
Okay.
I'll send the two of you a link, and we'll come back to it, and we'll follow on with another chat of that, if you don't mind.
No problem. Okay.
We'll have him back. Okay.